In 1875, the Northwest Mounted Police built a fort at the confluence of the Bow and Elbow Rivers. In 1894, Calgary was incorporated as the City of Calgary, and its population was under 4,000. How the original buildings of Inglewood, Hillhurst, Sunnyside, Mission, and the city center have survived in 2017 is what this documentary, Calgary, Old and New, will show. This photo, taken from Scotsman's Hill, shows the wooden buildings that were Calgary in about 1885. Proceeding east over the Elbow River, a traveler enters Inglewood. The district grew rapidly from the 1880s to World War I as a working-class area with a brewery, slaughterhouse, and sawmills. The oldest surviving commercial building is Fire Station Number 3, in use as a fire station from 1906 to 1952. It is now the Hose and Hound Pub. The National Hotel opened in 1908 as a local tavern and a hotel for working men. The East End Livery Barn on the west side of the hotel is a typical combination found in many prairie towns of the era. Calgary's population in 1906 had increased to over 11,000. Along the main avenue, 9th, are an assortment of multicolored buildings built in the 1910 era, often as apartments. Now the ground floors house an assortment of second-hand shops, clothing stores, antique shops, and specialty shops that have given Inglewood its unique character. This is the long-established Spalumbo's Fine Food and Deli, and is in its new location at 9th Avenue and 12th Street. When the Carson Block was built in 1912, a building and economic boom had increased the city's population to 43,000. The building was restored in 1995 and is now the home of Swans of Inglewood restaurant. These are only a few of the small retail stores on 9th Avenue. Haynes Harley-Davidson was established in 1957. This Harley is a limited edition 1956 KHK with a 900cc flathead engine and 4-speed gearbox. Here is Kane's owner and president, Mick Cawthorn, on a 2017 custom V-Rod street racer. Engine is about 1450cc and supercharged, and the bike has a 5-speed gearbox. The other Inglewood anchor store is Crown Surplus that opened in 1953. Its signage is unique and one of a kind. These are a few of the new buildings that have sprung up in Inglewood. Before 1906, the Hillhurst Sunnyside area was undeveloped. During the pre-World War I boom, the area emerged as a working-class district with many British immigrants. Streets were given English names, such as Gladstone Road, Bowness Road, and Kensington. Originally, this block was the Ross Block, built in 1909 by William Ross on the southwest corner of Kensington Road and 10th Street. It was occupied by a hardware store, a real estate agent, and a rifle range, among many other tenants. One of the oldest structures in Hillhurst Sunnyside is what was Fire Station Number 6 on Memorial Drive at 10th Street. It was in use from 1910 to 1964 as a fire station, and now houses the City of Calgary Parks Outdoor Resource Center. The Carscullen Block was built in 1911 at the intersection of Kensington Road and 10th Street. This area along 10th Street and Kensington Road has become trendy and upscale, with restaurants and boutiques having taken over from many of the working-class stores that were once here. On Kensington Road and 10A Street is the Hillhurst block, built in 1911. It was the Hillhurst Confectionery and Ice Cream Parlor from 1921 to 1932, a meat market and shoe hospital from 1932 to 1952, as well as other businesses. Now a coffee shop, this building is one of a few that still have the original rolled tin plate ceilings that were popular from the late 1800s to the 1930s. These ceilings were usually painted. The tin ceiling in the 1925 photo of the interior of the ice cream parlor can still be enjoyed while you have a coffee in 2017. Here are some of the establishments on Kensington west of 10th Street. Proceeding north on 10th from Kensington Road are more boutiques, artist shops, restaurants, and more. Ridley's Cycle has been here since 1945, while most of the buildings north to 3rd Avenue are more recent. Alexandra, a professional violinist, teacher, and busker, is for hire and likes to laugh. The Vendome block on 2nd Avenue, built in 1912, was home to the North Star Grocery for over 70 years. Apartments on the second floor provided homes for working-class families. Restored to its original appearance in 1989, the main floor is now a coffee shop and deli. The Mission District was founded by Oblate missionary Father Lacombe in 1883 as a French-speaking Irish Catholic community and was incorporated as the village of Rouleauville in 1899. The village was bordered by the Elbow River to the south and east and what is now 17th Avenue to the north. In 1907, Rouleauville was annexed by the city of Calgary. Built in 1905, the St. Mary's Parish Hall was the cultural focus of Rouleauville, with recitals, concerts, and as a meeting place. In 1913, the church sold the building to the nearly bankrupt Canadian Northern Railway to be used as its Calgary station. In 1923, the federal government merged several of these bankrupt railways into the Canadian National Railway, who kept the station open until 1971. It is now known as the Nat Christie Center and is home to Alberta Ballet. Fire Station No. 2 on McLeod Trail was opened in 1914. Typical of some early fire stations, the brick building housed both the fire and the police departments. Over the 3 wide fire doors, Fire Station No. 2 is in sandstone, while on the roof over the door on the south end is a block inscribed with No. 2 Police Station. The building is now home to Alberta Health's Emergency Medical Services Station 3. This 1929 photo looking north from Elbow Drive on 4th Street shows the gasoline station on the left and merchant shops stretching north on the east side, including at least 2 hotels. The Mission District was a working-class area with 1- and 2-story houses throughout this early period. In 1956, Calgary's population was 181,000. These 1956 photos looking south on 4th Street at 22nd and 25th Avenues show gas stations, auto body shops, a drugstore, Safeways, and supply services. 4th Street is bordered by wood telephone poles and overhead trolley wires. Calgary had electric trolley buses from 1946 to 1975. The oil-fueled economic boom in Calgary that began in the 1970s not only started the high-rise building boom in the city center, but also started the transformation of the Mission and Hillhurst Sunnyside areas. South of the 1918 Lister Block is the 1912 Aberdeen Block. The Mission Grocery was on the building's corner from 1925 to 1945. Four-story and higher condo and business buildings began to pop up. 4th Street changed completely. The service-type businesses are gone, replaced by upscale, trendy boutiques, coffee shops, restaurants, tattoo, pizza, pet and tanning salons, and liquor stores. Since 1989, Calgary's most popular free street festival is the 4th Street Lilac Festival, held annually on the last Sunday in May or the first Sunday in June. Over 120,000 people have crowded 4th Street between 13th Avenue South and Elbow Drive. Mission has come a long way from its days as the French-speaking Catholic Rouleauville. Now we will travel into the city center. A sawmill transferred from Eau Claire, Wisconsin in 1886 to the south bank of the Bow River became the mill office for the Eau Claire and Bow River Lumber Company. The mill office is the oldest building in Calgary and is now a cafe and still has its original rolled tin plate ceiling. George Stephen, as president of the Bank of Montreal, was the financial genius behind the formation of the Canadian Pacific Railway in 1881. When in 1883 the Canadian Pacific Railway reached Calgary on its way to the Pacific, land speculators and squatters thought the railway would build its station near the mounted police fort. But Canadian Pacific foiled the speculators and built its station to the west of the fort, in the center of the mile-square section of land owned by the company and devoid of squatters. The station location was on Atlantic Avenue and Center Street. Atlantic Avenue is now 9th Avenue South. On the same location as the old station rose the Husky Tower that opened on June 30th, 1968. In 1971, it was renamed the Calgary Tower. In 1968, the iconic Calgary Tower, at a height of 190.8 meters, dominated the city skyline. These views of the tower and of the Center Street Bridge go back over 75 years. The Center Street Bridge opened in 1916, and its 4 lions have protected the bridge ever since. However, before a traveler enters the city center, time has to be turned back to the Calgary of the late 1880s. Located 1 block north of 9th Avenue is Stephen Avenue, named after George Stephen. This is looking east from Center Street in about 1885. This 1905 photo of the Alberta Hotel shows the dirt waiting to become mud. Opened in 1890, this sandstone hotel is on the corner of Stephen Avenue and 1st Street West. It was the preferred lodging and gathering place for ranchers, businessmen, local personalities, and remittance men, earning it the status as a male Mecca. Famous for its 125-foot-long bar, supposedly the longest between Winnipeg and Vancouver, this 1900 photo shows the bartenders, George Clare and Fred Adams, with a rolled tin plate ceiling above. The hotel closed in 1916. The year that Prohibition started in Alberta. Stephen Avenue was designated a pedestrian mall in 1970, and in 2002, Stephen Avenue was designated a National Historic Site of Canada. Proceeding eastward along Stephen Avenue are the Norman and Clarence blocks, built in 1900 and 1901, and named for 2 of Senator James Lougheed's sons. The Tribune block was built in 1892 and briefly was home to one of Alberta's first newspapers, the Calgary Tribune. Sandstone and brick were often used in construction because of an 1886 fire that destroyed many wooden buildings from Calgary's earliest years. These are 2017 versus 1885 photos looking east along Stephen Avenue at Center Street. The Telus Convention Center on First Street East was completed in 1974. This location was once the home of the Empress Theater, on the right side of this photo next to the Maple Leaf ice cream parlors. Opened in about 1910, the Empress was one of Calgary's first vaudeville and motion photography theaters. 500 patrons could be seated beneath an elegant gold-painted ceiling. A fire in 1932 destroyed the theater's front. Between 1949 and 1957, it was known as the Hitchin Post and played Western movies. The building was demolished about 1980 to make way for what is now Arts Common. The block-long Arts Common complex on the south side of Stephen Avenue between First Street East and McLeod Trail has a concert hall and several theaters, such as the Martha Cohen Theater. On the north side of the Arts Common is the Olympic Plaza, where medals were presented during the city's hosting of the 1988 Winter Olympics. The plaza is a year-round gathering place, popular for lunch in the summer and ice skating in the winter. This is the Women Are Persons Monument, to honor the 5 Alberta women who in the 1920s fought political and legal battles to have women recognized as persons under the British North America Act. The case eventually went to the British Privy Council, who on October 18, 1929, said, yes, women are persons. Arts Common is anchored on McLeod Trail by the Burns Building that was completed in 1913. This was the headquarters of Senator Pat Burns's cattle and meat processing empire. The glass canopy, supported by wrought iron fixtures, have made this building unique in Calgary. Opposite the plaza is the Calgary City Hall, built of sandstone and completed in 1912. Hiding behind these screens is the original building, now undergoing a major exterior renovation after severe crumbling of the sandstone had been noticed. Behind the City Hall on 7th Avenue was the police headquarters that opened in 1914. It had 16 cells and could hold 60. Taken in front of the police headquarters, this photo shows a 1915 license plate on the police car and the paddy wagon on the right. It was in use until 1961, and its demolition started that July. These are new and old photos of the Bank of Montreal building on the north side of Stephen Avenue opposite the Alberta Hotel. Horses, wagons, and mud stand out in the 1890 photo. Across First Street from the Alberta Hotel is the Alberta Block. Proceeding westward along Stephen Avenue is the Palace Theatre that was completed in 1921. The Hollingsworth Building, completed in 1913, is in the Chicago school style with vertical columns of window panels. This artistic weirdie called Trees is a windbreak to dampen the gales that can blow along the west end of Stephen Avenue. The pre-World War I economic and building booms caused new buildings to sprout up to the north and south of Stephen Avenue. The Lougheed Block, opened in 1912, is an L-shaped block structure that enclosed the Sherman Grand Theatre and could seat 1,350 people. This was Calgary's social and political venue until the Jubilee Auditorium opened in 1955, after which the Grand became a movie theater. In 2005, it became a site for contemporary performing arts. The Oddfellows Temple is in the Edwardian classical style and is now the headquarters of Synovus Energy. Until the 1920s, the Northwest Travelers Building was a stopover for traveling salesmen to socialize. Later, several city agencies used the building. Then in 1948, it became a Salvation Army men's hostel, and later a thrift store. The family of man statues were created for Expo 67 in Montreal. Purchased by a Calgarian after the expo closed, the statues came to Calgary in 1968. It's unlikely that such a strange group of statues will be found anywhere else. Opened in 1911, the Grain Exchange was Calgary's first office tower with its 6 floors. The Western Block, built in 1905 on 10th Avenue south of the railway tracks, is a typical 2-story building with retail stores on the main level and apartments on the second. It is still that way in 2017. Along 11th Avenue South are several interesting buildings. The 1910 Louise Block, named after one of Queen Victoria's daughters, is similar to the other buildings in the area, with retail on the main level and apartments on the top floor. This 1915 photo of the fire engine in front of a flooded subway under the Canadian Pacific tracks gives rise to question, what was the firefighter telling the crowd? Calgary had a major flood that crested on June 26th, and broadcast radio did not begin in the city until 1922. In 1910, Calgary's fire department became the first in Canada to have a motorized truck. The fire headquarters on 1st Street East was opened in 1911, and the building still has the rolling tin plate ceiling. Today, Fire Station Number 1 is 1 block north from its original location. With the Calgary Tower in the background, the red brick with sandstone trim Custom House was the federal government's custom house in Calgary from the time of its completion in 1916 until 1979. In 2003, the Cantos Music Foundation occupied the building. In 2016, Cantos moved to the National Music Center Studio Bell on 9th Avenue and 4th Street East. This center incorporates the King Edward Hotel, built in stages between 1905 and 1910, and was the last of the old railway hotels on Whiskey Row along 9th Avenue. In the 1980s, until its closing in 2004, the King Eddie was a blues and biker bar that attracted many Class A bands from the United States and Canada. Now the Biker Blues Bar is no more. Studio Bell and the National Music Center is home to an impressive collection of acoustic musical instruments spanning 450 years, as well as electronic instruments. Some of the collection can be viewed online. The east and west blocks of Studio Bell have theaters, performance halls, boardrooms, lounges, and dining rooms, including the new King Eddie that offers good stage, lighting, and sound, plus a liquor license. Studio Bell rooms are now very modern rooms to rent. Calgary's old Whiskey Row along the railroad tracks is no more. North of Studio Bell is East Village, a multi-building condo complex that contains a very historic building that still has the vintage signs on its outside walls telling what it once was. Opened in 1912, the Simmons Factory Warehouse is an excellent and rare representative example of the pre-World War I manufacturing and industrial buildings that were once situated east of downtown. Situated on the banks of the Bow and with its exterior signage, it makes a great location for a restaurant, deli, and coffee shop. The steel and glass takeover begun in the 1970s were fueled by Alberta's petroleum resources. By 2017, now surrounded by steel and glass towers, the pre-World War I buildings are hard to find and may soon be gone for future generations to marvel at. The Bow, completed in 2012, has a height of 236 meters and 58 floors. The three-story Northland Place on 3rd Street West opened in 1972 and is about the only building of the 1970s to show a uniqueness in its architecture. Proceeding south from Eau Claire, 3rd Street is a one-way curved road with globe streetlights and several strange statues. The clock commemorates Calgary becoming a city in 1894. Brookfield Place, the east tower to be completed in 2017, will be 247 meters in height and 56 floors. Bankers Hall, completed in 2000, has twin towers, both 247 meters high and with 52 floors. On July 5, 1909, Calgary's first streetcar rattled along the 3-mile track of Stephen Avenue, which was paved by then. The last streetcar ran in December 1950. On May 25, 1981, Calgary got a modern version of the streetcar when C-train service started to run between the city center along 7th Avenue and the Anderson Station in the south, a distance of 10.9 kilometers. The 2017 C-train network is now 59.9 kilometers and reaches to the northeast, northwest, and western parts of the city. These 2017 views show the city center from the east, north, and west sides, with a rare shot of C trains and the Canadian Pacific Railway meeting. Looking east along 9th Avenue, the Calgary Tower can be seen peeking out in the background from behind the high rises. By 2016, the city's population had grown to 1,239,000 souls. These are the last old buildings in the city's core, located along 7th Avenue between 1st Street West and Center Street. What will replace them? Taken from Scotsman's Hill, the 2017 Calgary Stampede is in the foreground, with a Saddle Dome on the right. What would that time traveler from the 1880s say if they could see the Calgary of 2017? The Calgary Tower can put on a dynamic light display on special occasions. Happy 150th birthday, Canada.
to go back. We can't go ahead.
No, we can never go back. Follow me to the future.